Hello and welcome back to Campbell Kitchen, everybody. Today we're going to make an awesome French onion soup, and I'm going to go over the techniques that are required to make a wonderful soup. Start off by making caramelized onions, arguably the most important part of this soup. Now, you peel your onions, use about a pound a person. They're going to cook down. Use Spanish onions. You don't want sweet onions. It's going to be too sweet. And I like to slice them on a mandolin. It slices them evenly, they cook evenly, and they look more uniform and beautiful. I think that's a far superior technique than using a knife, but if you only have a knife, just use a knife, go to town, who cares? Melt some butter, add a big pile of onions to your pot. Now this is gonna take a really long time, guys. This is a commitment. This is gonna take about 3 to 4 hours to get to the proper color and consistency. So for the first hour, cover them, stir them, medium to medium low heat. Every 20 minutes, you just check on them, stir them from the bottom, make sure they're not burning. Eventually, they're gonna cook down into kind of like a soupy mess like you see there. Keep on stirring them, let that water evaporate, just keep on cooking them, and then they're gonna get down to like what some people say are caramelized onions, but really that's not caramelized onions. Those are amateur hour right there. You wanna keep cooking. Even right there is amateur hour. That's like 3 hours, amateur hour. Keep cooking, go, until they get nice and dark and caramelized, scraping the bottom, medium low heat, scrape, just stirring every 15 minutes. And all you have to do is stir. Don't forget about them. Cook them for about 4 hours, and they're going to turn out just like that. And that is a amazing technique. And you can use it for so many different things. But for this soup, you really have to make the onions nice. If you don't make the onions nice or you rush them, it's just not going to taste the same, right? People can really taste that. Cool them down, set them aside in the fridge. You can do this a couple days ahead of time, and you're good to go. Now, let's start with the broth. So for the broth, you can use a variety of bones. I'm using beef bones and turkey bones. You can use all chicken, you can use all beef marrow or shank, but you want to roast them. You want to make sure that they're nice and dark and caramelized. That's going to give you a rich flavor. That's going to complement the soup really, really well. And that's kind of what you're looking for in a French onion soup. So I go 450, roast them for about 45 minutes, rotate them, flip them upside down, turn the temperature down to about 350, and then go for about another hour. Make sure they're nice and dry, caramelized, good to go. Set them aside. Add your onion scraps to the pan, carrots, celery, and we're just gonna roast them until they're nice and dark and caramelized. And you want dark color on these vegetables. You don't wanna burn them all, but if those onions get a little dark and caramelized and almost black, that's totally fine. That's gonna give good color to that soup, and it's just gonna be fabulous. So I'm just scraping up all those burnt bits and those flavorful little bits and putting them in a container, throw them in the fridge. Now what we're gonna do is start our soup. So I'm adding those bones directly to the pot. I'm covering them with water, and I'm just gonna simmer. So this whole thing is probably gonna simmer about 8 hours. Make sure you skim. The idea of roasting is to remove a lot of the impurities, so there's not gonna be a ton of scum. But after about 5 hours, that's what your soup base looks like. I simmered very low and slow. I'm adding a couple tablespoons of tomato paste, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add my vegetables. So I'm adding those roasted vegetables. I'm adding some aromatics like bay leaf, peppercorns, thyme. I added some dried mushrooms, some shiitake. I added like 2 shiitake mushrooms. And then I just simmered that for a long time. I simmered that for another like 4 hours. And what you can see there is beautiful, dark, rich, flavorful broth. And I'm just gonna strain it out, okay? So I'm just straining out all those bones and vegetables. I'm not going to use them. They don't have any flavor. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you can see how important I think it is to cool your soups and sauces rapidly. I think it keeps them fresh, it keeps them lasting longer, and it doesn't make anybody sick. So I cool them really quick in an ice bath. And the way I do that is I tie plastic wrap around the soup while it's hot so it doesn't spill. I put them in the ice bath, I move it to the sink, and I remove the plastic, and then I just let it cool until all the ice has melted. And usually at that point, the soup is cool enough to throw in the fridge, and it gets down to like 40 degrees in 1 hour, maybe 2 hours, and you're good to go. And the next day you're left with some really fresh tasting soup. Remove the fat on top. You don't want to use that. And you're left with a good viscosity of that soup. It's not too thick, not too thin, good color, and really good flavor. So that's a wonderful soup base. So now to put this together, what we're gonna do is scoop the caramelized onions into a big pot. Like I said, I'm cooking for about 12 people. I used about 2 to 3 cups of onions. And then I added about 8 ounces of broth per person into that pot. I added a sachet, which is just a little like cheesecloth bunch of herbs like bay leaf, peppercorn, thyme. garlic, whatever you want. And we're going to simmer for an hour, and we're going to season with salt and sherry vinegar. Very simple. The flavor is really going to come through. Make sure you season well. And then what we're going to do is grate a little bit of Gruyere cheese or Emmental cheese, and we're going to just build this soup right now. So I'm pouring it in a classic French onion soup pot, and then I'm going to add some crusty bread that I have. I left it sitting out for a couple days. It's just bone dry, rock hard. I'm just throwing a couple croutons on top. You don't want too much bread. It's going to just make the soup too thick. You also don't want too many onions. So there's a fine line. And then you just cover it with cheese, and then you're just going to brûlée that cheese in your broiler, and it's going to stink up the whole house, but it's going to taste so damn good. It's going to be absolutely worth it. And this will burn your mouth like you wouldn't believe. So be careful while eating this. But that's the basic technique of making a wonderful French onion soup. I hope you like the recipe. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos to come. Have a wonderful day.